Welcome to the Mindset with Muscle podcast with your host and body transformation coach, Jamie Alderton, where you will learn that it's not just about exercising your body, but your mind too.
Hey guys, Jamie Alderton here and welcome to the Mindset with Muscle podcast. I am really excited because this is episode 1 of many episodes to come, and I'm very excited with my first guest just to kick off this brand new podcast in style. So my guest today, he's been dubbed as a Northern Tony Robbins. He's the UK's #1 motivational speaker, and he has authored not 1, not 2, but 3 top-selling business books on Amazon. His name is Mr. Brad Burton. Brad, how are you?
Yeah, that's Steve right in the morning. Yeah, real good there, Jamie. I'm made up that you've let me come onto your show. And why did you choose me? I've got to ask that.
Well, you know, I'd run out of options, to be honest.
Nice. See, ain't no flies on you, fella. No, listen, I'm delighted, though, and hopefully we can get you off to a flying start with this one. So thank you.
Thank you. And it's just to kick off this podcasting style, because a lot of people were asking me questions about who you're going to get on, what's this all about. And yep. I didn't want it like any other fitness-related podcast. You know, I will be doing stuff on nutrition and training and stuff like that, but it's not about the podcast. What it's about is the mindset that it takes to succeed. Because once you get that right, then you can adapt that to anything. So,
well, you know, listen. I mean, I threw the switch on my life, and I think in terms of mindset, I'm still the same guy as I was, say, 10 years ago. But the difference is, I'm now applying myself. I'm more successful as a result of it, and I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah. So, just tell me a bit about your background, Brad, and how you got into motivational speaking. Let's just start from the beginning.
Yeah, I fell into it, I suppose, a bit like, you know, we all fall into stuff. I was, I don't know, let me see now, what am I now, 42, can't even forget my age. And about 10 years ago, 11 years ago actually, I walked out of a job. I told my employer to shove his job up his arse, and I walked out of a job. I was 25 grand in debt, no income, newborn boy, baby Ben. And I walked out of a job on the 16th of December 2004, and the wife was furious, absolutely pissed off with me completely. You know, she said, go and get a proper job, at least you know where you stand. And I said, no, I'm going to go and start my own business off. It'll be fine. And, you know, it wasn't fine, if I'm honest. It was a tough gig. I started my own marketing business off on Monday to Friday. You know, I did me marketing stuff, and I did okay, sort of scratched the living. And then Friday at 6 p.m, I was delivering pizzas to keep my business afloat. Anyway, it all went horribly wrong one day when I rang a doorbell, ding dong, door opens, and standing before me was one of my clients from my marketing business, and I'm there with a freaking pizza bag. Brad, what are you doing here? What it is, Steve, we've undertaken a direct marketing campaign for Domino's, so I thought I'd really get a feel for the organisation by delivering pizzas.
Now, that was like,
yeah, well, listen, I'd always thought in the event of me getting collared, what would I do? Anyway, so I started my own marketing business off, and I was struggling. I was jobbing like anyone who actually runs a small business in the first few years is. And I went along to one of these networking events. I don't know if you know much about networking events, but effectively it's like business owners all meeting in the mornings. And there's 2 schools of thought in networking. You've got the loony left where nothing quite happens. It's all volleyball and chablis and what do you do, young man? Then you've got the hardcore right of business networking. Where's your leads? Where's your referrals you've got to attend? Where was the mainstream of networking? It never existed. And when I started my business off, my business that I'm heading up now, called For Networking, nobody gave me a chance. You know, I started off one business networking group with members, like a membership organisation. And fast forward now, 10 years, we now run 5,000 events across the UK. And how I landed into this motivational speaker lark was my story, I suppose. You know, this is a guy, me, without any qualifications to my name, 25 grand in debt when I started my business off. I've been addicted to drugs twice. I got shot at when I was 21 in Manchester. From a council estate of Manchester, I was my mum brought me up as a single parent. You know, hardly ideal conditions. And when you look at this now, when I run a multi-million-pound international business, people say, well, how'd you do that? And I threw that switch that we talked about, Jamie. I threw the switch. I said, you know what? Stop fucking about with your life. You've got one life, Brad. Why are you frittering it around here, just doing stupidity? So about 10 years ago, I threw that switch, and, you know, I am where I am now. And how it started in terms of the motivational speaker stuff is at my networking events. You get an opportunity to speak for 10 minutes to the group, and that's where I sort of practice to learn my trade, really. Speaking in front of, audiences of 20 or 30 people, and before you know it, people are saying, hey, we run a business show. Would you like speaking there? And the next thing you know, you're the UK's #1 motivational business speaker.
That's absolutely phenomenal. And did you find that, running your business and, being as successful as you are, you struggled with it, but do you think it was those struggles?
Formative stuff, Jamie. Absolutely formative stuff. See, what happens is this. When you come across adversity in your life, right, in whatever field it is, what happens is people end up quitting. So, for instance, you go bankrupt and people say, well, I'm never starting a business up again. I went bankrupt. And actually, you're better placed to be able to avoid bankruptcy again. A bit like being a boxer and getting knocked out. You're better placed to avoid, not getting knocked out. And what I've done, rather than run from adversity, I've actually started turning and facing it and actually going, okay, what lessons have I learned from my past? So if you think about me, just a street kid from Manchester, what lessons can I take from that life to business? Well, I'm a risk taker. And that's the thing. You've got to look at every element of your life, every element of your background and say to yourself, right, rather than it being a negative, what can I take from this? Because if you think about the best day of your life and if you think about the worst day of your life, let's forget about the worst day now. But these two bookends on your life are now steering you down a path you now walk. See, if it wasn't for me getting 2 bullets put through my window 20 odd years ago in Manchester, I wouldn't have moved away. I was in Manchester and 2 bullets went through my window and I moved away overnight. I literally left everything in my house, took a bin liner and pissed off to Somerset to get away from it all. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be on this podcast to you now. I wouldn't have written 3, of the highest rated business books on Amazon. I wouldn't have 3 children here with my wife that I met in Somerset. I wouldn't run 4 networking. That's mental. So rather than, go, oh, well, the reason that I'm shit at what I am is because I got locked in a coal shed by my dad when I was 7, actually say, stop that bollocks. Stop telling yourself that story and say to yourself, right, what can I, from my background, learn from? Oh, I'm on fire now, Jamie. Come on, let's have it.
So why do you think people struggle so much with achieving a goal? Whether it be body composition, whether it be business, whether it be any kind of success. Where do you think, or why do you think people struggle so much?
Okay. Great question, by the way. So I've got a bit of a belly on me, Jamie, and I'd love nothing better than to get rid of it, right? But am I prepared to make the sacrifices in order to do that? That means no curries, no chocolate, or it means, okay, I've seen your food menu over the weekend, so occasionally you can. But what I'm trying to say is there is a price to pay for your success. There is a price to pay for, the way that you look. There's a price to pay for the business. And I'm not willing to pay that price. Now, it might be that you could convince me, Jamie, and I actually think if there's anyone in this UK that could convince me to get rid of this belly, I think it's probably you, right? And there's several reasons going on here. 1, I trust you implicitly. 2, you're a normal bloke. And 3, you've got the accreditation to be able to say, guess what, I can do this, tick, tick, tick. But that's the thing, if I want to, in terms of goals and why do people fall short, well, I've got a goal in my mind's eye, which is I want to have a flat stomach. I don't want abs, just want to have a flat stomach. But am I willing to do what it takes in order to get rid of that? Same goes for goals. People say, guess what, I want to be a millionaire, or I want to have a business, or I want to have staff, or I want to do this. And actually, the truth is, yes, you might want to do that, but it's not enough. And I think that's where people fall short. So if you think about goals, Mr. Hits all these goals here, one of my sub-goals is to have a flat stomach, but I am, at this stage, unwilling to do anything about it sensibly. And I think that's the point, is that so many people have these dreams and wishes, and that's great, but until you start doing stuff to move you towards that, it's just a dream and a wish. And I think that the reason that I've managed to be a success in my business field is because somewhere along the way, I was willing to do what it takes. I was willing to take the pain. I was willing to make the sacrifice. Where my stomach's concerned, I'm not.
Yeah, and you've just hit the nail on the head there. A lot of people struggle to achieve their goals because they just don't want the goal enough. A lot of people will say to me, oh, I want to succeed in my business. I say, well, stop watching TV. You can work like 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. And a lot of people go, whoa, I don't want to do that.
Absolutely.
And it's the same with... I get a lot of people come to me about wanting to transform their body. Like, I want it, but I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, you're going to have to start going out with your friends drinking. Oh, can I still do that? And I think it's a lot of people still looking for that magic pill solution. They want to be where you are, Brad, but they don't want to put the work in. They just want...
Jamie, it's interesting. We just come off the fight, which you watched as well, Tyson Fury, and I've got to say, I did not believe that Tyson Fury had any chance whatsoever in order to win that fight, right? So there's me. Now, what people say is, well, I wouldn't mind going and get knocked out for £3.5 million. right? In boxing, you see people, these armchair people go, you know what, I wouldn't mind getting knocked out for £3.5 million by him or whatever. Well, you know what? The reason that Tyson Fury got his opportunity to get knocked out, potentially get knocked out for £3.5 million, wasn't for the 36 minutes that he's in that ring. It was for the preceding 15 years where he's got up every single day, running the streets when there's no crowds, no adulation. When his friends are drinking pints of beer, he's drinking pints of egg whites or whatever. And that's the thing. So everyone wants to go to the big stage, but no one's willing to do what it takes. See, when you go and do your bodybuilding competitions, you know, I don't know how long your routine's for, but it certainly isn't, it doesn't, the amount of work you've got to do to get to that point is unbelievable. And people don't want to do that. People just want to get to C. C is in life where everyone wants to be. But in order to get to C, you've got to go via A and B. A and B is the bit where it's tough. A and B is the bit where you've got to push yourself and you've got to do that extra rep. A and B is the one where, whilst your friends are going out having a curry, you're sat there and you're not having anything. That's ridiculous. But this is the difference between you, me, and any other people. You know, I cannot possibly comprehend this whole piece about doing the diet that you do. Right? I just can't. I just couldn't do it. And that's what I'm trying to say. So what makes someone exceptional is, are they willing to do the other things that other people, normal people, aren't willing to do? And in your case, yes. And in my case, where business is concerned, yes. But equally, going back to the nutrition and things, I'm not willing to make the same sacrifices that you are. And this is the thing. So the question that I'd say to your listeners right now is, what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to sacrifice for success?
Yeah, and having a plan of action, I think, is the most important thing. And as exactly what you say, I mean, people see you talking up on that stage in front of 500 people, and they're like, I want some of that. But they don't look at everything else that was, you know, the A and B to get there.
Jamie, let me explain, mate. Right, the amount of fear and trepidation I've had, right, on the run-up to that, as in, you know, I've spoke thousands of times in front of audiences. And what a profession when you're going into a cold room where people don't know you, and you've got 25 minutes to win them over. 25 minutes for them to know, who is this guy? Because let's have it right. As a motivational speaker, I'm hardly archetypal. You know, anyone that knows me, or you probably put a picture on with this, you know, I'm shaved-headed. I've got tattoos on my forearms. I wear T-shirts, I wear jeans and trainers. You know, I'm completely unique to any other motivational speaker in the field. But I can tell you, even as recent as, I don't know, 2 stories I'm going to share with you. 2 years ago, I was speaking at an event over in Cambridge it was, and it was an organisation with 200 staff, household name, and they had the sales director on beforehand, and he came on with Bermuda shorts on and the likes, and everyone's falling over laughing as if it's hilarious. It wasn't funny. The reason they're laughing is because he's the sales director. I go for a piss in the toilet, I'm in the urinals, and 2 of the lads turned around and said to each other, God, this is shit, it's supposed to be motivational. And I'm on next. So the managing director's got this big intro to come on, you know, to really sell it. And he's like looking for his cards. He goes, I can't remember where my card is. So it's just some fat bloke from Manchester. So I've got 200 people who've just been introduced as a fat bloke from Manchester. I come on waving. You can fuck me. So I've got, I don't know, let's say 40 minutes to speak. 25 minutes in, all my best stuff is just bouncing off the head. Right, I'm getting nowhere with it. And I turn around thinking on my feet, I think, shit. I go, you know what? In times like this in your life, when you're on the stage and people are looking at you, you've got no answers, or in your department where you've got no one to hand it down to and it's just you, where everything that you've ever done to this point has brought you here. And I says, I'm here now on stage with everyone looking at me, and I've got to be honest with you, it's not working, is it? And they all started laughing, first laugh of the day. And I said, but you know something? Experience is what you win when you lose. Think about that. Experience is what you win when you lose. I said, I've learned something today. Would you like to know what that is? He goes, yeah. I said, never do a fucking job in Norwich, and walked off. I got a big laugh. That was 2 years ago. And as recent as, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks back, maybe 6 weeks back, I got 2 paid gigs for corporates. Funny enough, I said to the wife, I'm in a car park, and I said, you know what? I'm full of nerves and trepidation here. And I said, if I could Men in Black press one of those little thingies and everyone forgets I was there and disappear and not get paid, I would have. And that's what I talked about before, which is this whole piece about having to do the things that you don't want to do. What are you willing to sacrifice? Because this is what makes somebody special. Rather than me shitting myself and doing one, I'm prepared to keep going through and pushing through that fear, pushing through that trepidation. And that's, I think, what most people aren't prepared to do. And I think why you do that, or why you can do that within yourself, I think you've got to understand why you do it. And why I do it is because I promised my kids that I'd take them to Disney World. And that's my motivation. But if it was just me getting paid because I want to go out with the lads, not enough. So you've got to tune into what your motivation is. Let me ask you, Jamie, and I know it's your interview, but let me ask you, what is your motivation? Why do you do those things that you do in order to compete?
I always look at myself in a third-person perspective. So when I wake up, I imagine that I'm looking in at my life, and I say to myself, would I be happy if I was looking in? And if I'm not, then something needs to change.
Right.
And for me, getting ready, getting in shape, and doing the things that I do, it means more to me than anything. It surpasses what I want to achieve. It's for me, it's legacy at the end of the day. And that sounds very ego driven, but it's not. It's about, I'm very fortunate to be in a position where I wake up every day and do what I want to do. And a lot of people in the world have the ability to do that. I'm always very grateful for the fact that I have followed my passion and had a lot of success with it, and the fact that I can turn it into a full-time job. I can see my daughter every single day.
Amazing.
And because of that, I'll never forget the fact that it's taken me a long time to get where I am now, and I'm not going to stop.
Jamie, the thing is, that's exactly my story, right? So maybe, just maybe, there's direct correlations here, because what you just said to me, you swap out bodybuilding for my business, then guess what? I'm in exactly the same boat. I have this opportunity. What I say to people is this, and there's several things going on, is that on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to ask you a straight question. On a scale of 1 to 10, Jamie, how happy are you? 10 being happy, 1 being miserable.
I'd say about an 8 or a 9.
Good lad, right? So I'm exactly the same. I'm an 8 or a 9 in terms of the happiness stakes. 3 years ago, I was making a whole lot more money, loads more money. And on a scale of 1 to 10, happiness, I was a 2 or a 3. I was miserable. I was broken internally. I had a nervous breakdown. We can explore that later if need be. And the point is this, is what I say to people is this: chase happiness, not money. Because if you think about where I am now, on an 8 or a 9, or you, 8 and a 9, would you having 10 times more money, would it make you 10 times more happy? No, it wouldn't. And there's a price to pay for you to make more money. So in order for you to say, let's say, double your income, it might mean that you've got to spend less time away from your daughter. And some people might think, well, okay, that's a worthwhile sacrifice. I say not, because no one knows the day ever. And this is something that I've realised more than ever. Nobody knows the day. In that, if I was selling extra days of your listeners, extra days' lives to your listeners for £1,000, how many would anyone want? None. If you knew you only had 1 day left in your life, how many would you want? As many as you could afford. That says to me that today is as valuable as the last day of your life. The difference is we take today for granted. And we take everything for granted. We take our health for granted. We take our friends for granted. We take our family for granted. We take ourselves for granted. And this is the thing where you start being thankful. And look, what you might have gathered is I'm a Mancunian, right, from Salford. This isn't some spiritual leader talking. This is some guy who's been there. And I nearly lost everything in pursuit of wealth. Pursuit of wealth. And I'm telling you now, chase happiness, not money, and you'll be a whole lot happier.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice there. So, Brad, I mean, you've launched 3 #1 business books.
Highest rated author on highest rated author on Amazon. If you go on Amazon and go and Google Amazon my name, you'll see.
And you do all your motivational speaking. You run this ginormous company. I mean, do you have any habits or routines that you do to increase your productivity? Because obviously, a lot of our listeners they're trying to find that kind of work-life balance. They're trying to be more productive, right. And I found the best way to do that is to learn from people that do it so well or have learned to do it better. So, if you have any habits or routines that you can share with the listeners, that'd be awesome.
If you consider, see what happens is when you're, say for instance, employed, as I was 11 years ago, what happens is you've got to work 8 hours a day. So you get in the office at 9 o'clock, have your costa and what have you, then you break for lunch at 12, then about 3 o'clock you start looking at your watch, and then at 4:59 you think, I've got another minute to go. You pretend to work till 5 o'clock, and then you put your jacket on and piss off. Then you go home and do the same the next day for 5 days. Honestly, anyone who's in that situation, I want you to get your piece of paper and a pen now, and I want you to write down this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how hard you work every single day. And be really honest about that. It's only you, with your piece of paper and pen, write it down. And I reckon you probably just wrote down 5 or 6. Let's say, for instance, you just wrote 5. In percentile terms, 5 out of 10 is what? 50%. That means that 50% of your day is frittered away, dicking about, pretending to work. Now, what I do is I'm in a situation where I will only work 100% of the time for that time. If I can't be arsed working, you don't see me sat on my desk between 4 and 5 thinking, oh, I've got another hour to work. I'll go away and go and play computer games or whatever. Now, you don't have the luxury of that when you're employed. You've got to pretend to work. I get it, right? But if you're thinking about starting your own business off, understand this. When I started my business off 11 years ago, could I piss off at 4 o'clock? Of course I could. Could I afford to piss off at 4 o'clock? No. So I ended up spending more time, what I call dicking about, where you just sit there. And if people think that, if you ever said to yourself, there's not enough hours in the day, right? If anyone's ever said there's not enough hours in the day, here's what I want you to do. I want you to grab a piece of paper and a pen, that same one, and I want you to write down every 15 minutes what you do. After about an hour and 45 minutes, you'll be writing what I've just said, dicking about. So what I do, for me, is I will only work 100% of the time for those times when I feel 100%. If I can't be arsed working, I'll go and do something more productive with my time, go and walk the dog, go to the gym, and the likes. So that's one of my things, which is to do what you want when you want and be optimum performance. Whereas, like I say, normal lives mean that you can't really do that. You've got to be an actor almost. You should get an Oscar nominee for the amount of time I used to waste dicking about in the office.
Do you find that? Do you think that's to do with the 9 to 5 mentality of people? Because at the end of the day, a lot of people that are employed by somebody else, as opposed to being or running their own business, regardless of how much work they do, they get paid the same every day. As opposed to running your own business and being an entrepreneur, it's relative. Most of the time.
Yeah. What happens there, Jamie, is you have a situation where you think that's your lane that you've got to stay in. Mancunian lad, council estates, blah blah blah. I've cleaned tables. I've been a doorman, albeit loosely. I've done car washing. I've done all these jobs. Yet the same guy who washed cars for £6 cash in his hand is now the same guy who's highest rated business. So somewhere along the way, this is about your mind. This is about your mind and actually getting rid of these self-limiting beliefs. Now, the conventional way of getting rid of self-limiting beliefs is to, dream big and all this shit. No. You've got to understand why you do it. Because when I started off my business, nobody gave me a chance, right? Nobody gave me a chance. And in some respects, I didn't even give myself a chance. But what I did is I sort of blagged myself. I give myself unwavering self-belief. I didn't fucking really believe that I was going to do all these things. Did I, bollocks? And that's the other thing you said to me before about, how did you become a motivational speaker? I was never born. On my birth certificate, it said Brad Burton, 1973, Salford Royal Hospital, is going to be a motivational speaker. Somewhere along the way, I fell into it. And if you think about anyone, it's like when you met your wife. You never set out that evening that you met your wife to meet a wife. You set out that evening to go out for a drink. So we never know where a journey takes us. But I'll tell you something. What's really interesting about this, Jamie, is you think about your background and my background, and somewhere along the way, the universe has conspired that we're now doing this podcast. That's mental. And bringing all that knowledge that you've got and my knowledge that I've got together, that's just nuts. So, I've no idea, real terms, in terms of what anyone's got to do in order to become an entrepreneur, because not everyone can be. I think you need to be honest with yourself. So you're either going to be, 1, honest with yourself, or 2, blag yourself, which is what I did. I blagged myself that I could do this. I never got the memo that people were sending around telling me that it was impossible. I just didn't get it.
And that was one of the stories that I loved that you've said before, is that, you've quoted as the UK's #1 motivational speaker, but it's something that you said that you were going to be and you were going to do.
People say to me, how did you become the UK's #1 motivational business speaker? I just made a fucking website and said I'm the UK's #1 motivational business speaker. That's the reality of it, Jamie, right? And I did that because if I'd have asked 100 people in the UK, who's the UK's #1 motivational business speaker, you'd got 100 different answers. If I ask 100 people who the American one is, or the biggest one in the world, what name would he get?
Tony Robbins.
Correct. Right. So somewhere along the way, you'd have, without question, everyone would say Tony Robbins. In the UK, if I asked that question, everyone would have a different name. So I thought to myself, you know what? It's a bit like seeing a £20 note in a nightclub. If nobody else has picked it up, guess what? It's fucking yours. Same principle. And I just looked at this thing and I thought, you know what? It's wide open. So I did it. And funny enough, I'm getting quoted all over the press. If your audience now go and Google UK's #1 motivational business speaker, you will see 20, 30, 40 pages on Google. I've got a frigging Wikipedia page that I've got no hand in. I've got a blue tick on Facebook. The world's gone mad. But that's about creating future history. It's about doing these daft goals that people laugh in your face. Every single one of my goals that I'd set to become, to set up a national network, everyone laughed in my face. Bank manager said I've got no chance, right? The highest rated business author on Amazon, that's legit. That's not made up. That's legit. It's like nobody comes close to me. In terms of I've got 500 5-star reviews, nobody comes close. And this is what I'm trying to say. The UK's number one motivational business speaker, speaking at Bentley, speaking at, JCB. They've asked me back, it's the third time now. I'm the headline number one speaker at the business show in Olympia. You know, ahead of people worth 200 million quid, ahead of the Dragons. How did that happen? Based on the decisions that I made. And actually, if you think about me, and you think about you, your audience, what we do in our lives is prior to this last 10 years of good luck, my life was pretty unlucky. Addicted to drugs twice, shot at, no qualifications, not unlucky at all, bad decisions. And this is what people do. People confuse bad decisions with bad luck, or bad luck with bad decisions. And that's what I say, don't confuse bad decisions with bad luck. And the reason that my life started getting its shit together now is my decisions are better. So all of a sudden, in the last 10 years, I'm now lucky, Brad. Down to you, down to your decisions. And this is the thing, if you're waiting for perfect conditions to start your own business off, you're going to be waiting a very long time, because there's no such thing as perfect conditions. I started my business off £25,000 in debt, addicted to drugs twice, got shot at in Manchester, don't have a qualification to my name. What's your excuse? What's your excuse? Because have you had a worse roll of the dice than that? Because if you have, great. Because, if you've not, then what's your excuse? And the excuse generally is what you're telling yourself. Like me saying to you, Jamie, I can't lose my belly. You're probably sat there thinking, yes, you can, you daft cunt. Right? Yeah. I bet with ease, with the way that you speak and the way that you train, I bet you could get rid of this. If you had this belly, it'd be gone within 6 weeks. Yet somewhere along the way, in my world, it's unmovable. That just shows you it's about mindset and it's about beliefs. So somewhere along the way, even if you're misguided, even if somewhere along the way you've been blagged into your thinking, then maybe, just maybe, that's what you need to do. And maybe you need to consider that you throw the switch in yourself to say, guess what? I didn't get a memo that said you can't, I've got the memo. It's filed here, said you can't lose your belly, Brad.
And what's good about this podcast is you can hold yourself accountable next year for achieving that goal, because there's hopefully hundreds, if not thousands of people listening to this, and I will make sure that will happen. So we'll be holding you accountable next year, because people.
Whoa, Jamie! I'm not put myself down for that yet. We're talking about it, but this is it. I mean, what's great about this is I'm being really honest about this whole. I'm questioning myself as we're talking. I'm listening to myself, thinking, listen to yourself. You're talking your way out of it. You're already telling yourself that you can't lose your belly, Brad. Yeah, actually, Jamie Alderson, that you can lose your belly, but somewhere along the way I'm saying no, I can't, and that will be what's going on right now to some of your listeners. They'll be saying, well, it's okay for him because, do you know what I mean? In terms of, from my perspective, it's all right for him now, he runs this big business and what have, he's got staff and so forth, but I'm, 10 grand in debt? Okay, I've got a newborn boy or newborn child? Well, guess what, so did I. But do you see what I'm saying? It's a mindset. This is what it's about. It's about mindset, and if you think you can't, guess what? You're fucking absolutely right.
Yep, exactly right. And that's what I love about you, Brad. I mean, the thing is you put it out all on the table and just show people, look, these are all the excuses that you could potentially have in life. I've been through it, I've done it all, and I've come out on top. So you can too. And it's exactly the same with what I do on social media and what I show people as well, is that there's so many fitness professionals out there who will only show you the highlights of their day. All the good things. I show people, look, I went out till 2 o'clock in the morning drinking. I, bought about 5,000 calories and ate that.
Good on you, fella. Personal best.
Yeah, I can still achieve my goals because I'm not doing it all the time, because I've mastered that, that consistency, but that moderation, which is the most important thing that a lot of people don't have.
Yep. Let me ask you a question, Jamie. How do you eat a pizza?
Well, it depends. It depends how drunk you are. You either roll it up and eat it like a kebab, or you eat it piece by piece.
Right, and that's the thing, right? That's what I was getting to, I was leading you then. So you eat a pizza slice by slice by slice. If you try to eat a pizza without cutting it up, you make a big fucking mess of it. And this is what people do in their lives. People have got all these problems. Oh, well, my job shit, my life shit, I'm drinking too much, I've got no money, And then because of, you're trying to deal with all your problems, you make a big zerd of it, a mess. So what you've got to do, you've got to almost, once again, grab your piece of paper and a pen, do a circle, and then make it like a pizza. Put 6 or 8 slices in there and write your problems in there. And then say, right, which one am I going to address first and foremost? Because if you think about me and my pizza, I was 1, skint, 2, addicted to drugs. When I say addicted to drugs, I used to socially take lots of cocaine and stuff, but it's addicted to drugs, whichever spin you put on it. But, you're spending, and this is another thing about, I remember back in the day, I went to IKEA, and it must have been like 12, 13 years ago, I went to IKEA, and there was a lamp there, and I remember thinking, oh, I like that, and I picked the lamp up, looked at the price tag, it was 65 quid. I went, fuck off, I'm not paying 65 quid for a lamp. 3 hours later, getting a couple of gram of cocaine, spending 80 quid, and that's indicative of what I was doing with my life. Everything was about short-termism. So you never ended up with a lamp in your house.
And so many people do that though, Brad. I mean, people say, oh, I can't eat healthily because it's expensive, and then suddenly they'll go out on a Saturday night and spend 70, 80 quid without blinking.
Good call.
And that's exactly, I did a YouTube video last week called Feed a Fit Guy for £5. So I went to the supermarket and basically cooked 3 ginormous meals, which fit a guy who trains diet for £4.97. So
Jamie, what you don't see right now is I've got goosebumps. I've got goosebumps with you talking there, mate. I'm not bullshit. Just straight up, on my life, I've got goosebumps now because I know we're live now and we're recording, but this is interesting because that is the shit that I've been telling myself. That actually works. Jesus Christ, nuts! It just nuts. But this is the point. Going back to with anything, one of the problems that I had with my body type, right, is that, and I got all the way up to a 40-inch waist, maybe even 42. And yesterday I bought some jeans first time in a year or so, and down to 34. So I've gone from 36 to 34-inch waist. And what we've not talked about is I've actually got type 2 diabetes. Now, what happened? Do you remember when I said before that 3 years ago I was making a whole lot more money? Well, I was on the road, I was speaking more. But what I was doing is I was fueling that stupidity. Some weeks doing 1,000 miles a week driving and speaking 5-6 times. I was fueling that with Red Bulls and Ginster's pasty and Greggs and stuff. And I had skincare by Greggs. And the thing is, I was doing 3 to 5 cans of Red Bull, and the doctor said to me, he said, Brad, you're borderline diabetic type 2. And I laughed in his face, literally. But once again, it just shows you as humans, how stupid we are when it happens to fat people. And I remember him thinking, you are a big fat fucker. I was like 17 stone, 5'11" 3/4, 6 foot with hair, Jamie. And he warned me anyway. I did nothing about it. 6 months later, I goes back there, he says, guess what, you're type 2 diabetic. And I put down the phone to him and he rang through the results. And I remember thinking to myself, you fucking dickhead, Brad. This is all you was warned about this, yet you chose to ignore it. And in life and in business, we ignore the warning signs. So actually, was it really worthwhile me getting me short-term business goals if it meant I've now got a medium-term, long-term problem in the form of diabetes type 2? Now, as it happens, I've managed to reverse my type 2 diabetes because from the minute I put that phone down, I've not had one can of Red Bull in 3 years or 2.5 years now. Not one. And yet I was doing 3 to 5 in a day. And it just shows you that somewhere along the way, I'm a child of the 70s. And nutrition just wasn't a thing. We used to have bird's eye potato waffles and beans and fried egg on top. That's how it was. And then all of a sudden, people have started looking at nutrition more and understanding the mechanics of it. But from my perspective, I wish I would have listened to my body a little bit more, and that the overall goal wasn't business success, because somewhere along the way, I ended up with it. I ended up with success. I was ill. I had a nervous breakdown. And I've got type 2 diabetes forevermore. Now, the nervous breakdown, I'm fine now, twitches. But if you think about that whole piece as regards the nervous breakdown, you go to the gym, Jamie, and you train your muscle groups, and you go in there and you do shoulders, you do back, you do legs, you do quads, all the stuff that you guys do at your level. Your brain's a muscle. When was the last time you went and trained your brain, Jamie?
Yeah, and so many people don't. They do not at all. I mean, I see so many guys and so many girls that they're in the gym and they've mastered that,
Right.
But then they're struggling at other avenues in their life. They're like, well, and this is exactly the same with a lot of things, is that you were so focused on business that you didn't realise that if you just adopted those principles that you had in business to your body, then suddenly, because that's it. If you look at what we're speaking about now, we could be talking about absolutely any subject. We're talking about success. We're talking about body composition. And what you're realising is the trends are the same. It's goal setting. It's consistency. It's you're going to have failures. It's seeing it through, and it's learning from experience. It's all the same.
If you think about your brain, right, it's a muscle. Like every other muscle group in your body, it's a muscle. And the thing is, if you try lift up, just for the sake of just humouring me here, what are you dumbbelling in terms of curls?
What am I dumbbelling? Oh, I don't know. It depends what I'm doing. I mean, it's not really about the weight; it's how you lift it.
Oh,
to
okay.
me. But
All right. Good. So
let's just say bicep curling. Let's just say 20 kilo dumbbells.
Go on, you fella. Right? see, that's good. Listen. I think I can do 22s tops, but without any form whatsoever. Ordinarily, and we can talk about this off thingy, but I'm doing about 12s or 14s, and that's anyway. So it's the old days. It was about pushing yourself and doing as much weighting as you could. That was back in my 20s. Oh my God. Now I'm more sensible about that. Completely different conversation. But going back to the brain thing, you know. If you try to lift up, let's say for argument, and I know you can do 40, you've just been thinking it, but let's say you try to lift up 50, you try to curl a 50. What would happen in terms of from a physiology perspective? If you try to lift a weight that is too heavy for you, what would happen?
I would pull a muscle, or it caused me more harm than good.
Right, and that's what happened to my brain because I put too much weight on it. I kept putting more and more weight on it, thinking, you know what, it can handle anything that I throw at it. Because why? Because I'm a big, tough guy, and I had the alpha male mentality, and I can do, boom. And the next thing, wallop, boom, you're at rock bottom, marriage nearly failure as a result of it, crying. This isn't, but I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm this, that, and the other. And this is the price to pay, that sometimes you need to understand that you'd be better having consistency than having a one-off blowout and actually getting things all wrong. See, now with my diabetes, I can have the odd curry and stuff, but I can't hammer it like I once could. Those days are finished. But because I didn't respect it. Same goes for your brain. Respect it as much as your muscles. And when you're talking about, shredding your muscle groups and building up mass, same goes for your brain. You've got to get that thing tipped up, because I'll tell you something. You go and unravel, right, Jamie? That's you not training because you just sat in the house scared to go out. So people overlook the brain, and actually it's one of those muscle groups that you're never going to see on Men's Health with a person on there with an IQ score or But it's it's one of the muscle groups that we most overlook, the brain.
Yeah, and hence the podcast, why I've created Mindset with Muscle, because it's the most important thing with my clients, and what people need to understand is that once you get that right, everything else is trivial. So moving on. I mean, what advice would you give our listeners that are looking to follow their passion? They've just listened to you, they've just listened to me, and they just thought, you know what? I'm willing to put the effort in now. I'm willing to go through the A and B to get to C. Yeah. What advice would you give the listeners based on your experience? Okay,
so if you were to go from your home now to Scotland, what would you do? So if you used to travel from your house to Scotland, what would you do, Jamie?
I'd probably look at the quickest way to get there, to be honest.
Of course, you look at the quickest way to get there, and you put it in your sat-nav, right? You put it in your sat-nav, you get the postcode and put it in your sat-nav, and then what it'd say is it's 500 miles away, it's going to take you 6 hours, and you're going to drive. And when you're driving, you're going to be looking, not 20 miles ahead, you're going to be looking at 200 foot ahead, right? This is what you've got to do. You've got to set your GPS for your life. Set your GPS, your sat-nav for your business. Because if you've not set that, how the fuck do you know where you're going? And this is what happens. Would you just jump in your car and have a rough idea of how to get to Scotland? Well, you could do that, and you might actually get there.
But it'll take time.
Well, it'll take time, and you'll make loads of mistakes. So you've got to set your sat-nav for your life. And I say this to people, where's your sat-nav for your life program to? Where's your sat-nav for your business program to? Because they're two separate destinations. Because where I went wrong previously is I felt that success and providing for my family meant earning money. Well, actually, providing for family is great, on the proviso that dad's not having a nervous breakdown. So that's what I'd say to people, is this. Set yourself where you want to go, and then start looking 200 foot ahead of you and move towards it. And as long as you never lose sight of your destination, you'll always get there.
And I'll be honest, how many people actually write down their goals and what they want to achieve? Usually it's a lot of talk, but I don't see anyone actually sitting there writing down their goals and making sure that they hit them. You'd be surprised at how successful you will be if you just start writing things down, and what you'll get from that as well is just self-confidence, because once you've written something down and you've achieved it, you become more confident, and you become more confident in your ability to do what you do.
What I do, Jamie, is my writing goals down is going on Twitter and social media. That's how I get my goals down there. And I remember going back 3-4 years ago telling people that I'm going to get on Question Time as the 4th panellist, and people laughed in my face and so forth. Well, guess what? 2 weeks ago, I had an interview with BBC Question Time, and now on the roster for the 4th panellist.
Oh,
right?
fantastic.
Yeah. You imagine me on the... don't worry, I can go into mum mode without swearing. But I would be a YouTube sensation if I dropped a C or an F-bomb, wouldn't I, on live television? But you know, that was something that I set 4 years ago, and people laughed in my face. And once again, as long as you never lose sight of your destination, you'll always get there. So why, let's just have this then, why are BBC Question Time talking to me now, whereas they wasn't interested 4 years ago? What's changed in those last 4 years? Well, one, credibility. Two, you know, the books. Three, the UK's #1 motivational business speaker. Four, I've got an agent who knows it. Do you see? So all these little changes and all these little moves towards it have made it possible. Whereas if I'd not had that as a goal, if it happens and you just stumble across it, then great. But that's not, it was genuinely definitive strategy 4 years ago that I'm going to end up on it. Same goes for me running my own TV show. So once again, I'm in talks at the moment with a national organisation that's well known to be running my own TV show. You know, and this is a guy, once again, let's just reiterate, sorry to bore you, no qualifications, 25 grand in debt, been addicted to drugs, got 4 arm tattoos, from Salford, Manchester, was brought up as a single by my mum. What's your excuse? And it's a genuine question. Say to yourself, what is my excuse? And write it on that piece of paper. My excuse is this. And just write it down. And then you think to yourself, look at that excuse you've written down and go, honestly, is that really the reason? You twat. Change your thinking, you'll change your life. Oh, I'm on fire now, Jamie. This is great stuff.
Fantastic, Brad. Absolutely phenomenal. You know, it's great advice. You know, follow your passion, enjoy what you're doing, have a goal, write down it, and just make sure that you stay consistent with it. I think that's the biggest thing that people need to take away with exactly what you said.
It's got to be fun, right?
Yeah.
Work doesn't, you know, my work doesn't feel like work, Jamie. Good Lord, it's not work. This is fun. You know, is this work now? I have no idea. But what I've done is I've blurred them lines between work and play. So all I do now, you know, me speaking in front of people is exhilarating. You competing, you training, and you get paid for that. Come on, you want the police to knock on your door and arrest you?
Exactly, and it's just this day and age as well, is that you can follow your passions and dreams, and it's just understanding how to do it. There is enough information out there. You've just got to find the right information, be consistent with it, and work hard. Have that work ethic there.
Jamie, there's something I need to bring up with you.
Can we
bring this up now?
Go for it.
Killer Cola grenade. Tell me about that, because no, listen, that grenade stuff. Well, you seen that? I bought a sachet. Well, I think it was 6 sachets of the lemon stuff, which is cool, real good compared to some of the stuff before, which is like acidic and what have you. Anyway, I took on your recommendation, that grenade Killer Cola, and I've got to say it's really cool in that it doesn't make you feel jittery, if you know what I'm saying. I've used some of those pre-workouts before and that were a little bit too jittery, but that stuff's good. And the bit that really I wanted to ask you about, how does it taste so good? That makes no sense to me.
I think Alan, who created it, is a little, well, he's not little, but he's a bit of a mad genius. He spent years developing that.
Really?
You know, I probably tasted every single failed one of that, and then you suddenly taste that, and it comes out in the market, because Alan works so hard to make sure that what he launches on the market is the very best. And honestly, when I first tasted that, I was just like, oh my God. You know, and it's not just the taste, it's the actual fact that it's a great product, you know, it works, you don't get any crash, etc., etc. And, you know, it's fantastic. And for those people who don't know what we're talking about, Brad tweeted me that he'd bought the lemon raid flavour of Grenade pre-workout, and I said, well, you haven't tasted anything yet. And I actually sent Brad some Killer Cola flavour, and he was just like, wow.
Yeah, so I've got 2 tubs of it downstairs now. Well, actually, I've got 1 left. But it's because he didn't sell it in Holland and Barrett. That's a completely different story. I just digress, but I just thought about it. I've got one in front of me now. But no, solid stuff, that, Jamie. Really genuinely solid stuff. So thank you for the recommendation.
You're more than welcome. So where can we find more about you, Brad? Where can we find out if we want to listen more, or have you got anything up and coming at all?
Yeah, I've got my new Brad Burton website, so it's bradburton.biz. That's my new website, and I'll have all videos and all that sort of stuff there. You can find me on Twitter, Brad Burton, Instagram, Brad Burton. Oh, I've just got a blue tick, just like you. I'm still following your followers numbers on Facebook as well. So that's facebook.com/the Brad Burton. But look, I love talking to people. As you know, I'm the highest, the second highest account on Twitter. With amount of tweets. I've done, I think, 300,000 tweets, all manually over the last 7 years. 7 years today, by the way, is my birthday for when I started on Twitter. And the only account on Twitter that's done more tweets than me is Xbox helpline. True story, Xbox support. So I'm an absolute animal. I actually love Twitter. And it's like, when you're on the road and I'm doing all these events and stuff, it's like having your friends with you in your pocket because it keeps you connected to the rest of the world. So do Google my name, Brad Burton. Do check out my books on Amazon and blah, blah, blah. And do come and say hello to me if you've enjoyed this.
Excellent. We're going to finish with a quote which I think is very relevant to this entire podcast. And it's what you put in your body affects how you look and how you feel. And what you put in your head affects how you think and what you do. And you've been filling your head today with Jamie Alderton and Brad Burton. Brad, thank you ever so much for coming on the Mindset with Muscle podcast today.
Awesome. Listen, final thing we're going to leave your people right now is this. Why wait? Why wait? Why wait? What are you waiting for? Because if you're waiting for perfect conditions, you're going to be waiting a very long time. And you know something? This is your life. Your life. You've got one. Make it count.
Fantastic. Brad, thank you ever so much.
Cheers, Jamie.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, episode 1 of Mindset with Muscle podcast done. If you want to check out more about me, log on to www.grenaj.com. I've got some fantastic training plans and programs and motivational videos for you to enjoy. That's www.grenaj.com.